And in Brussels, Belgium, where NATO and Western leaders, including US President Joe Biden, UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson and many other world leaders have arrived for Thursday's NATO extraordinary meeting aimed at putting pressure on Russian President Vladimir Putin to stop the violence in Ukraine. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg says the alliance will approve major increases of forces in Eastern Europe at the summit. There is more in this report.
US President Joe Biden has joined fellow Western leaders in Brussels on Thursday for 3 summits on Russia's war in Ukraine, a month after the invasion began. NATO, the G7 and the EU are all holding meetings in a display of unity rarely seen by the West. Mr. Biden will take part in all 3, the first ever visit by a US president to an EU summit in Brussels. But his visit to Brussels is not just about symbolism. Russia's invasion of Ukraine has given the Western defensive alliance, NATO, a renewed sense of purpose. And as the EU attempts to sever energy ties with Russia, it needs to forge and reinforce other relationships, particularly with the US.
We meet here at the NATO headquarters facing the most serious security crisis in a generation. And we will address this crisis together and address the threat it means for Ukraine, for NATO and for the whole international rules-based order.
Despite its name, NATO is not simply a geographic alliance. It's a group of countries who stand together because we believe in democracy, in the rule of law, in the defense of human rights, and the values that underpin all of our societies. That's why this illegal, brutal invasion of a friendly democracy in Ukraine by Vladimir Putin is absolutely unacceptable.
Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky was due to appear by video link at all 3 summits. NATO's 30 presidents and prime ministers will agree greater support for Ukraine and new troop deployments for Eastern allies. Their aim is to show solidarity to Kyiv, though only up to a point. Many, but not all, have been willing to supply weapons. UK Prime Minister says the UK government would use both the G7 and NATO meetings to substantively increase defensive lethal aid to Ukraine.
Look, I think that the reality is that Vladimir Putin has already crossed the red line into barbarism, and I think it's now up to NATO to consider together the appalling crisis in Ukraine, the appalling suffering of the people of Ukraine, and to see what more we can do to help the people of Ukraine to protect themselves.
But the alliance has also made clear it wants to become more directly involved, and Mr. Zelensky's repeated requests for a no-fly zone over Ukraine have pretty much been ignored.